you have Nexus? My mom always tells me, she's an accountant and always has been my whole life, but she also sells online with Etsy full time now. And she says, Lisa, you have to file for your sales tax. And I thought, why are we discussing this? This is something that the marketplace platforms actually do for us. They collect the sales tax, they remit it, they put it in, but apparently that's not the last step, and we're still responsible to report to the sales tax state. I got to interview this gentleman named Nick. I'm going to get you your own Nick. Nick explains what Nexus is, and he also explains what economic Nexus is. He works for a company called TaxJar, and that's who my mom uses. She's all about streamlining things. So let's get into this video and let's listen to what Nick says we need to do.
Thank you for meeting with me, and I'm excited to ask a bunch of questions and everything like that. Maybe with this a little bit. I do online sales. I sell on Facebook Marketplace mainly, and then also I have stuff on eBay and Mercari. And I realize that you guys have stuff that you can put in with the APIs on eBay. I'm not sure about Mercari or Facebook, or if we just have to upload things manually.
Okay, cool. What type of products are you selling through these marketplaces? Like home goods, furniture, that type of thing?
Yeah, basically. Collectibles, sometimes clothes, stuff like that. Stuff that's all taxable. The question that I have is, if I've got everything on these other platforms and they're collecting the sales tax, how am I still responsible for the sales tax on those? Because I believe it still creates the Nexus. They're collecting it and they're sending it in. So like Facebook is collecting the sales tax from the customer. They're sending it all in, but it's still in my name. So how does that work?
Yeah, I could share more there. So they're all following the marketplace facilitator laws, which do require them to collect and remit sales tax on your behalf. Now, you don't have your own website. You're selling only through marketplaces. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And then where are you physically located?
In Texas.
Are you familiar with economic nexus laws?
A little bit.
So economic nexus is basically every state has their own threshold. They look at revenue and order volume. And if you have enough sales in that state to meet one of those metrics, it could either be 100,000 in revenue or like 200 orders. That's kind of a standard threshold. Typically within a year's period, you would have triggered economic nexus requiring you to file sales tax returns there. There's one other nuance as you're looking at economic nexus threshold where several states do, but not all states do. Several states will count marketplace transactions towards the threshold. So there are states where your marketplace orders don't even account towards the threshold, so you would never reach economic nexus. So there's one nuance to keep in mind there as you're doing some analysis on your own. Aside from economic nexus, it sounds to me that your requirements are definitely in Texas where you would want to file a sales tax return. And then if you do think you've hit any of these nexus thresholds, you would want to file there. Now, it's going to be unique because you're selling through marketplaces, right? They're collecting and remitting on your behalf. Okay. So in the perspective of your business, the government jurisdictions are going to see your revenue as being tax exempt, marketplace exempt. So within your sales tax return, you're going to be remitting $0. We call that a $0 sales tax return. Now, if you have Nexus, if you're saying like 100% compliant, they would still want you to file sales tax returns. So any states where you are filing, given the platforms you're selling through, you need $0 sales tax returns.
So basically, you would remit the sales tax as $0 on every single state that you have, even though, like, let's say I have a customer in Nevada that purchased something and they and Facebook remitted $5 in sales tax on my behalf. I still have to remit it, assuming I had created the Nexus required to do so in the state of Nevada, and I would just write in $0. Is that right?
Because Nevada is gonna see that as being like exempt revenue on behalf of your business, so you're not required to remit any sales tax on that revenue because Facebook or eBay already did so. So if you were gonna, a lot of states will have like a line item for marketplace sales or exempt revenue. So all of your revenue would fall into those line items. And then at the bottom where it typically shows how much you have to remit, like in the form, it would just be zero.
But do you still have to put in the amount of money that you sold in those states and total that up? And even though it's exempt, it still becomes zero?
That's right. So you're going to have typically like they want to see gross sales, and then they'll ask for a breakdown like taxable revenue, exempt revenue, sometimes a breakdown of revenue by jurisdiction. All of your revenue, since you're selling through marketplaces, would fall into like a marketplace exempt or just an exempt line item. So
right.
You'll give them kind of a full picture of your revenue, but at the end of the day, you just wouldn't be remitting any sales tax.
So how does TaxJar fall into that? If all the places that I sell are marketplaces, how would TaxJar fit into that equation to help me?
So it would only be a fit if you want to automate these processes. We have an integration into eBay where we would automatically consume those orders, and they would be automatically marked as marketplace exempt. And I'll actually share my screen and show you what this looks like. 1 second, I have a demo environment that I want to pull up. So all transactions will sync into this transaction tab. Similar to this Walmart transaction, Walmart is a marketplace as well, where they have a marketplace. eBay transactions will come in as marketplace exempt. So our system knows that it is an exempt transaction, and we know how to categorize it into the reports appropriately. Now, we don't yet have an integration with Facebook or Mercari. So you would have to export a CSV file of those orders, say, on a monthly basis. Okay. And then within that, within our import template, there is a column associated with exemption type where you would want to put marketplace on all of those orders. Okay. So when you import that data, it's going to be logged as marketplace exempt. All of your transaction data will be flowing into TaxJar through those channels. And then you're going to tell TaxJar where your next are here, and this is how we know which reports to generate. And you'll see those reports right on the dashboard here. This is where we create and generate all of the sales tax returns for your Nexus states. So if we look at California here, you'll see that all of the reports are going to be in the state's required format. So for you, you would see gross sales up here, and then a breakdown. Like I was mentioning, there's a deduction and exemption line item here. All of your revenue would fall into that. And then we would do a jurisdictional breakdown as well because they require that. And then
like on a per county basis?
Yeah, they like to
even sometimes city?
Exactly. So okay. Schedule B is going to be for counties, and then Schedule A is for cities. Mm-hmm. Now this is specific to California. All states kind of have their own required format, but a lot of them do require this breakdown. And at the bottom here for you, it would just be zero because all of your revenue is marketplace exempt. Now from here, you would have two options. You can download this report and kind of use it to file with the state on your own. Since it's in the required format, it would streamline that process. Or if you are in several states, maybe you do have economic nexus in states where you need to file there, you can use our auto file service, which would save you a lot of time. It just allows our team to file those returns with the state on your behalf, as well as submit payment. But in your case, we wouldn't have to submit payment since there's $0 returns.
Assuming you had all marketplaces that you were working with.
Exactly. Now, if you ever created your own website through like WooCommerce or Shopify, then that's a scenario where you would have to collect and remit sales tax.
Got it. Okay.
Additionally, we do have an economic nexus monitoring dashboard here where we have all of those different thresholds for each state built into our system, as well as the logic of, hey, do marketplace transactions count towards this threshold or not? So as you're bringing those orders in, we can actually show you based on your revenue and your order types where you're approaching economic nexus, 75% of the threshold, and then where you have met a nexus threshold. So you'll know exactly.
Basically say you've met this nexus threshold, so now you're going to have to report in this state.
Yep. So when that happens, typically you would want to register with the state for a sales tax ID like you did in Texas. And then from the TaxJar perspective, you would just then add that state into your Nexus settings here. And then if you want to, enroll an auto file.
Does every state that you have, for example, on that list, is a state that you have a sales tax number in, or do you have to file even if you don't have a sales tax number in those states?
You would only have to file where you have Nexus, and then in order to file, you would have to get a sales tax ID. So only your Nexus states is where you're going to file.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, or did I miss the mark there?
Yeah, I think it did. So basically, if I have Nexus in West Virginia, then I have to go. I will have to go and get a sales tax number in that state if I've met their minimum requirement. Otherwise, I just file because they require everyone to file. Is that correct?
So there's never going to be a state that requires you to file if you don't have.
But is there ever a state that doesn't require you to have a state sales tax number even if you did have to file?
No, you would have to register for the sales tax permit in order to start filing.
Okay.
Because that's when they assign you a filing frequency and a due date and provide you with that sales tax ID that you would use to file with. So registering for that sales tax permit or ID would be the first process to start.
So what if you don't file all these state sales taxes in all these different states that you're selling in?
That would just be kind of a risk assessment that you would have to analyze, which a lot of people do, right? You could step back and say, hey, do I kind of want to take the risk of not filing? It's just kind of, hey, do you want to be 100% compliant, or do you want to kind of do an analysis on the risk and kind of take the path that you choose from there? Typically, when there's businesses that have Nexus and they're not filing, those are the companies that states will look to audit. Now, the question is, since you're not having to remit any sales tax, how high of a priority would the state see your business in terms of auditing? Those are things that you would have to consider as you kind of assess the risk.
The sales tax is still being put in on my behalf from the different companies that I'm selling, the different marketplaces that I'm selling on, but I'm still responsible to report it. But if I don't report it, I'm basically taking the risk of being audited. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And let's be honest, people that are selling through Amazon Marketplace, different marketplaces where they are doing $0 returns, it kind of comes to, hey, did you sit in the front of the class in high school or the back of the class? There's a lot of people who just want to, hey, I don't want to mess with the states. I want to file where I have to and just stay 100% compliant. There's a lot of those people, but there's also a lot of people who are like, hey, I don't think the state's going to audit me because I wouldn't have to remit sales tax anyways. So there's no ROI in it for them. So you just have to understand what your position is, and obviously I can't provide any legal advice or tell you what you should do.
Right.
You just kind of have to take your position and do what you feel most comfortable with in terms of state compliance around sales tax.
The biggest problem with Facebook, and Facebook is my biggest marketplace, they don't have anything to help us as far as spreadsheets or anything like that. Some of the other marketplaces, you can download a spreadsheet at any time. We don't have that on Marketplace. So everybody's having to create our own spreadsheets and do our own things.
And for transaction history or anything, order details.
It's on there, but you just can't download it into a spreadsheet.
Oh, so you have to manually type it out into a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So it's really forward/archaic. So we really teach making sure that you're line iteming everything and putting it on a spreadsheet so that you know exactly, what state it's in. Putting the spreadsheets in a state, and I didn't even think about it to actually add a county or a city on it. That sounds like it might be also just as important on the spreadsheet as just putting a state on there.
Yeah.
So I probably need to do that on the spreadsheet. You guys have a spreadsheet format when you upload it that you use?
Yeah, we do have an import template where you would want to match kind of the columns of information with the headers of our template.
Okay.
So when you import it, it kind of maps to the correct fields.
Okay, so that's probably really important then, and our spreadsheet probably needs to be adjusted accordingly so that the users can actually do that.
Right.
Make that happen.
Not all columns have to be filled out. There's only a handful of required columns.
Mm-hmm.
Like the breakdown of the transaction, total amount, whether it's a marketplace transaction, at minimum a zip code for the customer so we can categorize it in the right state reports.
Okay, but even a zip code would put it into city or county, right?
But yeah, so the more you can provide around the address, the more accurate we can be. So minimum requirement would be a zip code. Yeah, in the state.
I've been wanting to get with someone to really just answer some of these questions because nobody seems to know. It's like everybody knows a little bit of nothing when it comes to this. And selling on the internet is just starting to do this like crazy, especially since the pandemic. And when we look at some of the numbers and stuff, just in last year alone, it went whoop, which means they're going to start auditing us. They're going to start looking at the little guy and saying, hey, you're not doing it right. So we need to be ahead of the game and say, hey, we're doing it right. We've been taught right. So let's get it done. My mom uses you guys. She loves you guys. She thinks that it just makes taxes so much easier. And she's always said, just because they file for you doesn't mean that you're not responsible for it. You still have to file your information.
So I'll share kind of an overview of the pricing. There's really, for you, there's going to be two different prices with TaxJar. One of them's optional. There's going to be the subscription fee, which provides the platform. And depending on what plan you go with, it also provides support in terms of technical support, sales tax guidance, audit support, and even notice management, so we can work with the state on your behalf. And then the second price would be our auto file service, where you can enroll with the state and we file that return on your behalf. So the subscription, there's two different plans. There's our starter plan and our professional plan. The professional plan is more expensive. The starter is kind of the cheapest plan. The starter provides kind of a limited platform. It does include the integration with to eBay. You can also upload your CSV files. It doesn't include the economic Nexus dashboard, so that's going to be in the professional tier, but it does include all of the state level reports that you can download from the system. That plan does include 4 free auto files per year. So if you're filing quarterly in a state, it could cover that state. But you would have to purchase additional auto files if you wanted us to do it in like a state where you're filing monthly, because that would be 12 auto
files. So what you mean by that is you get one state on that. That's correct?
So you get 4 auto file credits. That could be one state if you're filing quarterly. And again, auto file would be if you wanted us to file those returns. Because included in any of our plans, you get all of the state level reports that you can download from the system. So those are all going to be included. One auto file.
Yearly reports?
We do. If that's your frequency, you would set that state up, plug in your frequency, and we could generate an annual report. For that case, if you wanted to file annually, you would only be using 1 auto file credit.
Got it. For that state?
For that state. Filing monthly, state would use 12 auto file credits, quarterly 4, annually 1. Basically, 1 auto file credit equals 1 filing. Our professional plan is going to be a tighter partnership with our team and provide more support. On top of some additional functionality like the economic Nexus dashboard with email alerts. You're also going to have prioritized support so you can reach out to us for questions. You also go through onboarding for additional guidance. And then you would have audit support. So if you do ever get audited by a state, you can work with our team and we can support you through that process, provide any information the state's requiring, and then also notice management. So a lot of times states will have questions, open up tickets when you file. With notice management, our team can actually interface with those tickets and close them out on your behalf. The starter plan starts at $19 per month for up to 200 transactions monthly. So we have a usage-based approach in terms of our tiers. The professional plan up to 200 transactions is $99 per month. The professional plan includes 12 free auto file credits. So you get some additional credits there. Now, regardless of the plan, if you want to use auto file and you go beyond what's included, you can purchase auto file credits at $35 a piece. Or if you're in enough states and it makes sense, you can purchase a bundle of 25, drops the cost down to $30 per filing.
Just so that I'm clear on exactly how the service works. If I took my CSV file and I put it in, and let's say it had 30 states that I had sold in that last quarter or year, whichever I'm filing in. I would only need, and assuming I had created, you guys would say you created Nexus in this many states and create a report. Let's say I have 15 of them that I need to send in reports. Then I would go and get sales tax numbers for those 15, assuming I didn't have them, and then I would file those reports. Is that correct?
That's right. And if you need help with state registration, we do that service as well. So if you just wanted to pay us to do it, we charge $2.99 per state, one-time fee for that.
Okay.
But you're right in terms of the life cycle.
Does it cost to get sales tax numbers in different states?
Depends on the state. I think there can be some fees associated with certain states, whereas other states it's free.
Okay. And then with every person that's on there, do they have an aide?
Like a dedicated support person? Well, I'm on the sales side, so I would work with you.
Do you have an aide?
So depending on the plan, again, starter is like a self-service account where you don't have much access to support. Whereas the professional plan, you do have a tighter partnership with our support team. But you do have kind of access to our whole support team. You wouldn't have like a dedicated person.
So if they came on and they signed up and they wanted to do an interview, kind of like what we're doing today, could they do that and then sign up, or how does that work?
Exactly. So if you take this back to your group and you're like, hey, check out TaxJar, this is what they can do, and they're like, hey, I'm interested, but I want to just make sure it's fit. Yeah, connect them directly with me, and we can kind of go through this same process to identify if TaxJar is a fit for their specific requirements. Yeah, I would encourage that process.
Awesome. That's what I want to hear, because I want everyone to feel supported, not only in our group but outside of our group. And if this is something that they need for themselves and in their business, then I want them to know that it's there and available. And if not, then at least they know that this is something they need to be looking forward to doing for their business and finding somebody who can help them to be able to.
Because everybody's going to have their own requirements. So it's good to talk through those, because it could impact whether TaxJar is a fit or not.
Right.
I would definitely encourage, hey, just have a conversation with them to see if it's a fit, and then go from there.
So what are my next steps? What do I need to do to get started?
Yeah, so depending on what plan you wanted to get started with, if you wanted to just go with the starter plan, you can sign up through our website, create a trial, you get 30 days free, then you can upgrade to your paid subscription. If you value the additional support and features of the professional plan, you would work through me. I would send you an online agreement that you would e-sign. I would introduce you to onboarding, and we would send a welcome email to help you get started. And then you would have, we would activate the professional subscription on your account.
Just because someone else is taking care of the taxes doesn't mean that you're not still responsible for it. And that's something that people don't understand.
Right.
And I want them to understand exactly how that's going to work. If there's, 50 states that they have to file in, then they need to file in all 50 states. But taxes aren't simple. They're not simple for anyone. And they should always talk to their tax accountant for anything that they need. But not every tax accountant is able to file sales tax in every single state like TaxJar does. And that was one of the things that impressed me about it, was when my mom was telling me about your guys' service and how great it was. She said they can file in every single state. And I've also listened to a few webinars that you guys have had on YouTube, just basically talking to one of the accountants that's actually here in Texas that services that just does sales tax for people in a lot of different states. And it was very interesting how he put it together, how he explained Nexus, how he even explained economic Nexus, but it's been a little while since I've listened to it. That's perfect. Thank you.
Well, hey, I really appreciate your time and appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to continuing the conversation from here, and let me know what questions come up as you think about it all.
Thanks.
Yep. Talk to you later.